Our next speaker is Jordan Tarsovich with Slurry Pavers in Virginia. Welcome, Jordan. Jordan Tarsovich is a project manager at Slurry Pavers, Inc. He has a distinction among all our speakers of having played professional baseball.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jordan Tarsovich, and I'm with Slurry Pavers, located in Richmond, Virginia. And today I'll be talking about asphalt surface treatment or chip seal. Just an overview, I'm going to go over the required equipment necessary to effectively chip seal, the proper sequence of operations, and some helpful suggestions for applying asphalt surface treatment. Real quick, in the most basic terms, chip seal is an application of liquid asphalt followed by an application of stone rolled and compressed onto a roadway. It can extend the life of a roadway for about 4 to 7 years, depending on the existing asphalt surface that you are applying it to. It can be used as an interlayer for cape seals or for hot mix paving. The necessary equipment needed to effectively chip seal consists of the asphalt distributor, a stone spreader or chip box, dump trucks, a pneumatic rubber tire roller, a steel wheel roller, a broom tractor, and a vacuum truck if necessary. So the asphalt distributor, its main function is to uniformly apply the liquid asphalt at the appropriate specified rate. Equipped with a truck-mounted insulated tank, it typically holds anywhere from 1,000 to 4,000 gallons, depending on the tank size that you have. Equipped with a heat system and power-driven pump to control the internal emulsion temperature to allow for proper circulation throughout the spray bar and the tank. It also is equipped with a temperature gauge that you should be monitoring as you're applying the oil to ensure that you are within the correct temperature to whatever liquid you are applying. Talk a little bit about the spray bars and nozzles. They're typically 8 to 14 feet wide. You can adjust the width to match the roadway that you need to apply. You can also adjust the height of the bar, and from what we can tell, if for best uniform coverage, the bar should be set at about 12 inches or 1 foot off of the ground. Each nozzle is 4 inches apart on the spray bar and should be set at a 15 to 30 degree angle, and I'll show you in the next slide really the reason why it should be set at that 30 to 15 degree angle. So in the top right, you see that's the little turn at that 15 to 30 degree angle, and it should be set, especially if you're doing multiple layers of the chip seal. When you turn the nozzles, it ensures that you cover both the front and back side of the stone. So that's the purpose of that. If you also see in the bottom right, we talk about the perfect triple coverage. Each fourth nozzle, if you see here, should be touching at the very bottom, and that is your perfect coverage. And that's when we say it should be around a foot off of the ground. If you go too high or too low, I'll show you in the next slide what can happen. You see here, you can get fat spots on the final surface if you are too high off the ground where you have too much of an overlap of oil, or if you're too low on the ground. The top right shows some oil streaks or little cornrow effects. So that's why it's important to really be right around that 12 inches off of the ground. In the bottom left, we talk often to our guys about trying to get the salt and pepper appearance. This to me looks like it's been on the ground for about 5 to 10 minutes. And you can see that you should still have some oil seeping through. And as you can see here as well, there's not too much or excess stone placed on top. In the bottom right here, this is just an even distribution of a road. It's been on the ground for about 2 weeks, and it's been swept and vacuumed, and that's what we're looking for the even distribution. Stone spreader or the chip box. Its basic function is to distribute the cover aggregate onto the hot liquid asphalt in the chip seal process. It's capable of applying various aggregate sizes, and you don't have to worry about going too fast or too slow because you can plug in your application rate and it will apply it at you can go at whatever speed you need to go to where you are comfortable, and it will adjust the gates to your application rate. And the application rates are measured in pounds per square yard of aggregate. So how it works, so a loaded dump truck backs into the chip spreader and actually has a hitch on the back of the dump truck that attaches to the receiving end of the chip box. The dump truck raises its bed and releases the tailgate to allow the stone to flow into the receiving end of the chip box. The conveyor belts then transfer the stone to the front end of the box, where the stone is then distributed evenly onto the roadway. And once it is properly loaded, the chip spreader distributes the aggregate at the desired rate, and it pulls the dump truck in neutral. The dump truck is in neutral, and the chip spreader actually pulls it down the road. When the dump truck is empty, the operator then releases the hitch, and a full dump truck comes in and takes its place. This right here is the hitch I was talking about that we install and have on all of our dump trucks for this operation. Again, the bed lifts and it dumps the stone into the receiving end of the chip box, and our dump trucks typically hold anywhere from 13, 14 to 18 tons of stone. Rollers, you should at least have 2 rollers. One should be a rubber tire roller, and the other should be a steel wheel roller. The first roller we use in our operation is the pneumatic tire roller, and it should follow very closely behind the chip box after the stone is applied to the road. It's used to embed the stone into ruts or any bird baths and depressions on the roadway surface. And then again, that's followed closely behind with the steel wheel roller, which should be used as a final passing roller in this operation. The steel wheel roller does a little bit of a better job of embedding the stone into the oil, but you need to be mindful not to overroll, because it could change the end all composition of the rock if you overroll with the steel wheel roller, because it could crush the stone. You should have a broom tractor with you. It should be one of the first pieces of equipment out on the roadway. The better you clean the road, the better the rock will stick to the existing surface. And if you don't do a good enough job, then you should expect to have some pop-off areas may occur. That we also use it. It has a blade on the back. Some of ours have a blade on the back that we use to clip the edges if we're in a cul-de-sac or a neighborhood, or if there's anything that is growing out on the side of the road, we just clip the edge of the road with the broom tractor. Now I'll just go over the overall operation. The asphalt distributor will begin shooting the emulsion on the far left side of the road, covering half the width of the road. Then the stone spreader follows closely behind and distributes the aggregate over the emulsion. It must align with the left edge of the spreader gate with the left edge of the emulsion that has just been applied. And the spreader should leave, this gap here is pretty important. You need to leave about a 2 to 4 inch gap in the center line. That way, when you're returning, you can see where to apply the stone. And if you cover that fully with stone, then you will have a center line pop off down the road. So on your first pass, you need to allow for 2 to 4 inches on the center line and not cover that area with stone. The loaded dump truck is then connected to the chip spreader, and it's pulled down the roadway. And once that dump truck is empty, another dump truck will go in and take its place. When you have multiple dump trucks that are fully loaded and ready to go, we call that a train, and it's ideal for maximizing production. Once the aggregate has been applied, both rollers then follow closely behind. Each roller is required to make at least 1 pass. You should then sweep any loose stone in the adjacent lane that may be necessary if you've got some overlap or overrun of stone on the adjacent lane that you have yet to apply oil. The only difference is with the second pass is leaving that joint in the center line, and when you're going on in your final pass in the adjacent roadway, you can overlap that center line with that 2 to 3 gap with the distributor, and then on your way back with the chip box, you need to cover that area all the way through to cover all of the oil that had just been laid. Sweeping may be required after you apply the chip seal, but really you should leave it alone after you apply it for at least 5 to 7 days. After, you need to give it time for it to fully cure before putting anything harsh on the road. Just some quick tips to go over. We need to make sure that our nozzles are completely cleaned for a more consistent application. When ordering material, a tanker should not be there on site for any more than 3 to 4 days, as at times the material can start to separate in the tanker. You should check for any existing fat spots or areas on the road, because you can manipulate your application rate. Like on this image here, there's some fat spots in the oil, so you should probably lighten up on your oil application and heavy up a little bit on the stone to blot those areas. One thing here, I like this picture because the front man on the box is actually communicating with the dump truck driver to let him know how much stone to put into the receiving end of the chip box, and when he has enough, he'll actually tell him to go ahead and lower the bed of his truck. One other last thing is, when doing cul-de-sacs, you can actually unhitch this dump truck and you can continue to go to work with the chip box, and it just allows you to maneuver within that tighter space in a much easier way. And that's all I've got for you.
The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.